Hello, hello, hello. I'm back with some more painting for you today. We are doing coneflowers. So I know we did coneflowers already. I'm well aware of that, but I have a great a surprise for you in store this morning. I'm going to show you what really hooked me on watercolor. Once I saw this, I went, oh my goodness, this is for me. And I think it may be for you as well. So I'm going to show you a bunch of things to start us off here, and then I'll be right back in a sec. Okay, we are back. So if you recall, the last video we did coneflowers. I'm going to get a little closer here so you can see these a little bit better. These are the coneflowers that we used, that we did last time. The thing about these coneflowers is this is what I call coloring with paint. Just like you would color with crayons. You've got an outline, and you're simply coloring in everything, but you're using paint instead of crayons. Okay, so this is not bad. This is okay. This came out pretty nicely. But let me show you what I did next. Same exact painting, and take a look at the difference in these two paintings. This is the coloring with paint. This is different. Now, look at the third one. I have 3 to show you today. Number 3. Personally, I like number 3 the best. And let me tell you the difference. The technique I'm going to teach you today is wet on wet. This original one we did is called wet on dry. Wet paint on dry paper. This one is wet paint on wet paper, wet on wet. Both of these are wet on wet, and I like this one even better. And this is a good argument for painting the same thing over and over. These two are quite different, and I really love, if you can get really close to this one, take a look at the painting on those flowers. This is my third painting of the coneflowers. This is the second painting of the coneflowers. I like this one too, it's more vibrant. But I love the way the watercolor moved on this one. So, let's paint wet on wet. Whole new idea. Here's my new line drawing on my watercolor paper. I'm hoping you can see it. I made it super dark this time, but no matter how dark I make it, it never seems to show up on the camera as well as I would like. So let me get a little closer to this and show you what we're going to do. By the way, I left out the little flower down here. If you recall on last time's coneflower, there was a third flower down here. I left that off because we don't need that. I just need to show you this new technique. And then I'm asking you to try it. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take a brush, and this time I'm going to use my Raphael brush. It's a size 3. This is my second set of brushes I love the most. By the way, my next video is going to be all about paint, and then all about brushes, and we're going to learn some new cool things. So here's what you do. Get your brush wet, and you're going to go and paint the petals with water, just water. And you're going to skip every other petal. So I'm putting water on this one, skipping that guy, putting water on this guy, skipping that guy, putting water on this one, skipping him, putting water in the back right here. Skipping that one. I keep putting more water on my brush. If you notice that, I go away a second, I'm getting more water. Skip this one and do this one. Skip that one, more water, and do this one. You want to have a goodly amount of water on your brush. You don't want to do all of them in a row, like get them all wet, because the paint will merge together and could create some real interesting problems. So let's go ahead and paint. I'm going to back up a bit here. I have the same paints I used last time. I know it's looking messy because, as I told you, I seldom clean up my paints. I like to leave them there. But I still have the same paints. I have my orange over here. I have a dot of orange there. I've got the yellow, a dot of yellow down here. I've got a dot of sap green over here, and orzo over here. So I still have my 4 dots. It's not quite as clean as you saw them in the last video. But what I'm going to do now is take some water on my brush and go into my orange. Just tease out a little bit of that paint over here. Remember, we're never going to put our brush in the middle of the puddle and just make a mess out of it. We're just going to put the wet brush at the tip of the color dot and just get a little on there. And now watch what happens when I touch this to the petals that we covered with water. By the way, if you forget which ones you put water on, because you can't see it very well, just tip your card so you can see it in the light, and they will glisten. All the ones that have water will glisten. And I can see right away I didn't put enough water on these beginning ones. I'm going to go back. I'm going to add more water. There we go. Now back to clean brush. Watch what happens to this paint, and I'm going to get a closer view for you. I want you to see what happens to the paint when I put it in here. Watch. Can you see it spread? I just put a dot of paint in there. I'm going to put a dot of paint in this one. Ooh, look at that one. I hope you can see it kind of go like poof. It does a poofy thing. Look. And let's do it in this one and this one. Can you see it moving? It just moves all by itself. It's so awesome. Now, I didn't want paint at this point on here, and I got on there, and I have another brush, a dry brush. I'm going to wipe it off and then wipe my brush off. Wipe it and wipe off my brush on your towel or Kleenex, whatever. But if you want paint to go away, let's take a dry brush and just wipe it off. Okay, awesome. So back to what we were doing. I'm trying to see where my next, here it is, right here. This one has water on it. Can you see how it just takes the water? I just dotted my brush into the water and it makes it move. So now I'm going to clean off my brush, clean with water on it, and we're going to do these over here. So I'm going to do this one. You want to do every other one. You want to skip. Hang on a second. I've got some water where I don't want it to be. Kleenex is our friend. Okay, so I'm going to put water on this one. I'm going to paint this one with water. Paint this one with water. Paint this one with water. And go back now with my orange paint and just touch it. Here it goes, touch. And it moves all by itself. Touch this one and it moves all by itself. I think this is so much fun to watch it just go ooze across the page, because watercolor has a mind of its own. It'll do what it wants to do. Now, second thing you're going to do, clean brush and damp. You're going to take yellow. Let's get a little bit of this. Let's go back out. A little bit of this yellow. And I'm going to then do the same thing with the yellow on the same petals. And I'm going to start it down at the bottom and kind of drag it up. Now the yellow and the orange are merging together in the most delightful way. There's no hard edges to worry about. They just talk to each other. The yellow and the orange just begin talking to each other, and they go together. Hang on, more orange. Dab it in there. This is, by the way, much faster. If you think about it, if you painted the last one with me, this is much faster than it was when we were painting, quote, coloring with paint, where you just like painted them in. This is much faster. You put water on there, you dab a paintbrush in, and the paint just does its own thing. Okay, now I'm going to rinse my brush off. While those are drying, because we don't want to do the other petals around it until that dries. We'll probably have to use the hairdryer at some point. So while that's going on, I'm going to come down here to the leaves and do the same thing with the leaves. And I'm going to start with my sap green. Just getting a little bit of sap green on my brush. Oh, wait, hang on. Can't do that yet. Rinse that brush off. That was a mistake. Water. We're going to have to paint the leaves with water. Now, these leaves are not hooked together in any way, so you can do all of them. Put some water in this leaf. Water in this leaf. Look at that, just water. I did 3 with 1 load of water, which I think will work fine. Water in this one. If you don't put enough water on your leaf, what will happen is when you drop your paint in, it won't burst. It won't like go like crazy like the other one did. So you get, after a while, you kind of get used to knowing how much paint to put, how much water to put on your drawing. Now, notice this one right here. I've got a petal that's coming down at a little point right there. It goes right across the leaf. So we certainly don't want to do that, anything with that petal right now, do we? We just want to put the green in the leaf underneath it. So, all my leaves are wet. Let's pick up now that sap green, and let's just drop it in the leaf and see what happens. See? Now move it around a little bit with your brush and just let it kind of do its thing. Same thing here. Every one of them, you're just going to dab it in there and let it do its thing. I was able to do 3 brushes with just that one dab of paint. But you notice how interesting the movement of this is. And you can't predict it, which is something I kind of like. You're trying to control the paint, but you're not really. It's doing its own thing. It has its own mind, and it's doing its own thing. Here's some more of that here. Here's some more here. I'm just going to start dabbing this green paint on the leaves. Okay, so I love how this looks. Can you see how it's like darker and lighter everywhere? And it just moves on its own. Now I'm going to go back to the orzo green, which is kind of a dark khaki color. You can make it yourself by taking a good deep green and putting some yellow in it. So let me do that. This is my orzo green. Much darker, much richer in color. And let's see what happens when you add that to the light green that we've dabbed. The leaves are still wet. You want them to still be wet because you're hoping that this green is going to merge with the other. Let's see what it does. It certainly does. I'm just kind of dabbing it around. Typically, I would want to put the orzo near the base of the leaf because the base of petals and the base of leaves are really deeper in color usually than the tips of the leaves and the tips of the petals. So, I'm leaving it alone. It looks kind of weird, doesn't it? But I like it. Now, if you decide, and looking at this, as I'm kind of thinking this over, maybe too much orzo, I wish I had more light green, well then let's fix it. Wash your brush, wipe it on a towel or Kleenex, and just lift out some color. So you're going to take your brush, just barely damp, and lift out the color. See what just happened? Let me show you that again, because this technique you're going to use a lot in painting. Washing my brush, getting it clean, barely damp, so I'm going to rub it on my Kleenex, and put it in the paint, and with one swoop, lift it. I like that way better. Let's keep doing it. Clean the brush, wipe the water off so it's just a damp brush, put it in the paint, don't move it around, just put it in the paint, and drag it. That's how you lift, that's one way you can lift off paint. Clean brush, wipe it on the Kleenex. I'm going to put the light green into the orzo. I'm going to drag that one back. But it's a little bit too dark here, so I'm taking that off. I'm just going to dab that clean, damp brush in the paint, and it takes it right off. So now you've learned a really good technique for how to fix problems. This leaf, let's make it lighter. I'm going to start here near the tip, and I'm going to push that orzo back. See how it disappears? It just disappears. Clean, dry brush, wipe it on your Kleenex, and push it back. I keep wiping on my Kleenex and pushing it back. Wipe on the Kleenex, push it back. Now, this one went outside the line. I don't care. But if it drives you crazy, you can take that off. Same way, clean, damp brush, wipe it on your Kleenex, and wipe it off. Look at that. It disappeared. Was that not cool? It just disappeared right off that leaf. Clean, damp brush, just wipe it. Don't rub back and forth, just wipe it. And I've cleaned that problem up. Now I like those leaves a lot better because they're gentler looking. Now, let's go back and look at the flowers. I can see that this petal has tons of water, too much water. So if that happens, take your trusty Kleenex and just take the tip of it and lay it in there. Don't move it, just lay it in there, and it will, just like when we blow our nose, it'll sop up a bunch of that water and that paint. This one also, a little bit too much water. I'm just going to dab it out. Okay, now I'm going to use my blow dryer and just dry this before I go on. So I will be back in just a sec. Okay, so we're back. I just used my blow dryer to dry it. And a couple of things about knowing if your painting is really dry or not. When you're using a lot of water like we are, painting wet on wet, just turn the card and see if it glistens. If it still glistens, it's wet. When you blow, after your blow dry, if you want to make sure it's really dry, just don't use your hands because we have oils on our hands that you don't want to get to mix in with the watercolor. Use the back of your hand and just feel it. And I can feel right now that this part up here is not dry. And in trying to make it dry, let me show you what I just did. I just blobbed some orange up here. Now, I'm going to take that off. Clean brush, clean water, wipe it off, and wipe that away. Wipe it on your Kleenex and wipe it away. Clean, damp brush, wipe it on your Kleenex, wipe the mistake away, and wipe this one away. And one more, I'm going to wipe this one away. If your brush is really wet when you're doing this, it won't work very well. Make sure it's just kind of a damp, barely damp, and you can wash away or paint away your mistakes. So let's move on. Let's finish the rest of the petals. Water on your brush. Oh, that's a huge petal here, isn't it? Water on your brush. And don't, when you're doing this, be careful you're staying within the lines. Don't move it across into the next petal. You want to do this kind of carefully on the second set because you don't want to disturb the set you've already painted. Let's do that one and this one. Now, if it begins to bleed just a little bit, like right here, I can see this one's bleeding into that one. Don't worry about that. It would just be if you have some humongous thing that happens, then I would fix it. Let's do this, and let's go ahead and do this little one down here too. Okay, so now we're ready to do the second set. Orange paint. And let's just dab, 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 dab. Ooh, that one really burst. Watch this one. Dab, 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 dab. Look, it's bursting right down into there all by itself. I think I'm going to put a little bit, I'm going to dab a little bit more around here and here. Still just using the same paintbrush. Don't worry about the little bit of orange you've gotten in here. We're going to take care of the center of that flower in just a sec. I'm just going to keep dabbing paint and letting the water take care of it. I just love how that happens. Okay, rinsing off my brush, wipe it on the towel, pick up the yellow. Now I've got a good amount of yellow here. That's a gunky yellow. Let's see what happens when I add it to my orange. Yep, it looks good. I'm going to dab it here, just let the water move it. You want to hit every petal probably with it. You would think that most every petal would have some of that different color in it. Here's that one down here that kind of points down into the leaf. Moving it over, let's do this one. Dab it with yellow. Dab this one with yellow. Oh, all the way down to the end. Awesome. Those petals are looking pretty darn good. Let's back up a little and take a look at that. I'm going to dry it again with the hair dryer. So I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I've dried it, and I had a question come to my mind that maybe you're thinking about too. What if you put paint on something and then you want it to have that wet on wet look? Can you put water with a wet brush on top of a dried paint and make it go whoosh? Well, you can certainly put water on top of the dry paint, And it will change the look of it, and you can move it around. Once you put the dry or the wet brush on the dry paint and let it sit for a second, you can add more water to it and move it around. But it will not have that same poof look that we get when you have wet on wet. The idea is you put wet paint onto wet paper, and that's what makes this happen. So we have two things left, the center of the flowers and the stems. For the center of the flowers, I'm going to use my really dark orzo green, but I really am going to kind of mix the two together, and I want it to be dark. And this is just not dark enough for what I would like to do. So I'm going to take something called Payne's Gray. If you have any kind of a gray color, or even if you have black, but be cautious. Black goes a long, long way. It doesn't, and even Payne's Gray goes a long, long way. If you add it to something, it will darken it up in a hurry. So you only want to take, seriously, a tad of black. Err on the side of it being too light, and then keep darkening it. Don't just dump some dark paint in there, hope it'll be what you want. Here's my example. You've seen the size of the dots that I make of the paint that I'm using. This, believe it or not, is my, let me see if I can get that closer. This is my dot of Payne's Gray. Do you see it? It's so tiny compared to my other dots of the other colors, because Payne's Gray is going to really make things dark in a hurry. So I'm going to take a wet brush, and I'm going to go ahead and move that Payne's Gray. I mean, look how much it makes it. Oh, it's huge, hugely dark. I'm going to wipe it off, so I have practically no Payne's Gray on this brush. Then I'm going to move it into my orzo. And that is almost the right color right there for me. I think I'll put a little bit more. I'm going to dampen my brush, clean it off, wipe it off, pick up a little bit more Payne's Gray, and put it into my orzo. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get the color. Ooh, I put my orzo into the black. There, I like that color right there. But it takes, and you see that little tiny dot, what it did? Payne's Gray and lamp black, they have their places in painting for sure. But boy, I'll tell you, you can overpower a color in a heartbeat using too much of it. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the center of the flowers. It's going to look kind of grayish green, which is what I'm hoping for. And you're going to do just what's called a wash. Very thin paint, lots of water. It would be what we call tea consistency. We're going to talk about consistencies on flowers, on paints in our All About Using Your Paint video, which is coming up shortly. Now, I like that, but I want it even darker. So with watercolor, typically you put light and then you put darker colors on top of it. Just the opposite. If you've painted with acrylics in the past, as you know, you start with the darks and you add highlights as you walk out. Well, not with this. This is just the opposite. Watercolor is start with a light wash and add dark as you go along. Just the opposite from acrylics. Okay, now I'm going to blow on this thing. I don't want it really dry, but I don't want to use the hairdryer on it. Good. I'm going to do it again. Take that Payne's Gray, a little bit more paint on the brush this time, and put a second coat on it. And I'm not going to go painting all over the place. I painted all over the place for that background kind of wash look. Now I'm just going to touch this to the paint. I like that. I'm not painting like this, you notice. I'm just dabbing, because nothing is a solid color in nature, right? Nothing. Okay, now I'm looking at it now, talking about going back and fixing mistakes. This petal is completely yellow. I'm not sure if I like it. I think it needs a little bit of orange in there, but I'm talking a little bit of orange. Clean my brush, wipe it off. Let's pick up a little bit of that color, not very much. And let's see what I can do with this petal. Now, I'm not doing wet on wet anymore, am I? The card is dry. So now I'm painting wet on dry, but I think if I just have very little paint on this brush, yes, I can just dab it and add some interest to that petal right there. See how I did that? Very little. I had a damp brush, barely damp. I picked up barely any color and put it on. If I picked up a lot of color, it would have turned to orange immediately, and I didn't want that. So now we're going to put in, I forget what they're called, stamens. I had biology in high school, and I got an A, but it's really surprising to me because I can't remember anything about biology. But this is still damp. If we're going to put little dots of whatever it is, pollen, you know, that the bees are going to get on their little feet and carry around, then I want to have this dry before I do it. So let me dry it, and I will be... Okay, let me mention something about blow dryers, hair dryers, since I just took a moment to hair dry that painting. Be careful on hair dryers. If you go on too high of a speed, and you may have already made this mistake, you can blow your paint around, right? I mean, it's wet, especially if it's wet on wet, it's going to be super wet. And you turn that blow dryer on high, and you could be shooting a piece of paint straight out onto your paper. So be sure, I put it on low, and I probably should have mentioned that before, but if not, then you've learned a great lesson, haven't you? Okay, smaller brush. This is my Raphael size 0. Smaller brush, and I want to get a lot of gunky yellow on here. So I am going to, first of all, just add a bunch of water to it. I'm just going to put some drops of water in that yellow because I want, oh, there it is, nice and gooey, because it had kind of dried up while I was sitting here. So now I've got, look at this, how much paint I've got on this brush. It's a lot. So I'm going to wipe it off just a tad. I want a nice, I want a nice point. And I don't know about you, but I don't think this is going to be a nice point. I'm going to rinse that brush off. I'm going to change brushes. I've got a couple options here. I could do my velvet brush, black velvet, which I love, size 2, because it really goes into a nice point. Or I could use what's called a liner brush. This, I don't know if you can see, but this thing has about 6 hairs in it. But because you probably don't have a liner brush, I'm going to go ahead and use this brush, which makes a nice point. Whatever one you use, make sure it makes a really nice point. See the point on that brush? It's a great point. Put that back in my yellow now. Okay, now I'm just going to dab little dabs in the center of these flowers. There I am. Now, while it's still wet, rinse off my brush, I'm taking that Payne's Gray, pure Payne's Gray. Let me see if I can get it pure. Yep. When I said pure, I meant dark enough. That's what I was thinking. And I'm going to do the same thing with the black. Let's see if it works. It does. It's wet and wet. I realize that. So it'll be kind of blobby, but I'm looking for blobby in this painting. Okay, while that's drying, let's do our stems, and we're done. Pick up whatever green you like. I think I'm going to do mostly the sap green. And when you do your stems, be sure you don't just draw a line straight down again. You're going to start the line and maybe leave a space. Draw a part of the line, draw a part of the line, like so. And do the same thing over here, part of the line, part of the line, part of the line. So we don't care that the stem separates. I don't care. I like it that way. It looks more like real life to me. This leaf, if you notice, really isn't even attached to the stem. And that's okay with me. So now we're done with this. You just have to sign it. I'm going to take this same painting when we get to our how to use paints and how to use brushes system coming up, and I'm going to redo something about this painting. So you might hang on to this, keep it around. Now let's take a look. I have now painted this same painting 4 times, and it's different every time. This is wet on dry, wet paint on dry paper. Take a look at the difference between this one. Hang on, gotta move these. Number 2, wet on wet. Number 3, wet on wet. Look at how different they look from each other. They do look different from each other. This is way softer in its appearance. And then today, wet on wet. It'll look different every single time you do it. And I think that's part of the beauty of it, is that it changes. So, paint the same thing over and over, especially if you don't like how it came out. Don't throw your paints away. Don't say, I'm not creative, I don't know how to do this, I'm giving up. Don't do that. Hang in there. Anything worth doing is worth doing well, and it's worth doing a whole bunch of times until you get better at it. Everyone can do this. It's a matter of deciding you would like to, and really it's a matter of deciding whether it's something you enjoy. You'll enjoy it a lot more after you can make things that you like when they're finished. But I'm telling you, this is now the 4th time I painted these flowers. I still enjoy painting them. Try the wet on wet approach. Wetting your paper on whatever image you're doing, and then dropping the paint in and watching it move, and then merging it with a different color paint and watch what it does. Even if you just take a plain piece of paper, watercolor paper, and just try it. Wet an area and throw some paint on there and see what it does. Put another color right next to it, make sure they touch, and watch how they merge together and change. Just watch those kinds of things and practice a little bit. It's really, really fun. I think in my heart of hearts, we all like to create. I think as human beings, we all have an innate desire to create in lots of different ways. Whether we have a family, we create a home, we plant a garden. All of that is creating something. And watercolor is just one more way to create. So, go outside today, go somewhere today, and create. See you next time.